That was one of the most disheartening, one of the most disappointing, one of the most frustrating. I'm already losing track of adjectives. Look, this was just a bad game. There is no positive way to spin it. Ryan Leong of AP Radio and I are going to break down a game where I don't know if you could say one player on this team played well tonight. Not one. Jonathan Kuminga had his worst game as a starter. Andrew Wiggins, yet again, cannot be consistent. Stephen Curry's shot is lost. Oh, my goodness. We're going to, if we can find something positive, we'll do our best. But this was brutal. And Ryan Leong and I are going to break it all down next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that's FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Folks, these promos mix up. They're different almost every week. That's a hell of an offer right there. $200 for a winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. You can follow Ryan Leong of AP Radio. He's also got his own program he's going to plug on the show today. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Leong. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Threads at Dog Wild. Ryan, that was ugly in every sense of the word. The Warriors were in this game. They were leading at certain points. They went into the half with a 1-point lead. But in my opinion, this game started turning around with Tyrese Halliburton's near half-court buzzer beater at the end of the first half, cuts the lead to 1. He makes a similar type of shot. It looked very different. It wasn't from half-court, but hits another buzzer beater at the end of the third quarter. The Warriors' defense couldn't stop the Pacers, who looked more energetic, who looked more engaged. The Warriors offense couldn't make anything. I'm looking at the stat sheet right now, and the Warriors from beyond the arc shot just 29%. Stephen Curry missed 12 three-pointers tonight. They had 11 turnovers in the second half. Jonathan Kuminga, who's been unstoppable as an inside attacking type player, the points in the game stat has changed overnight because of him. But he got flummoxed tonight. He got borderline shut down entirely. Andrew Wiggins cannot be consistent. One game after I thought he looked like his old self. He's back to doing what he does all season. This was just a brutal loss. I can't see one positive on the stat sheet except for maybe Brandon Pajemski. But Ryan, how are you doing, man? And your immediate reaction, where'd you go? There you are. And your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors losing this game, a tough one, at home, 123-111.
That was just brutal loss. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, they just didn't show up. I mean, at least they did in the first half, but the third quarter they got run off the floor, or they were just being very charitable with the basketball. And I mean, charitable, they were just flat out turning it over. Bad pass turnover on the stat monitor numerous times, whether it was Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, you name it, they turned it over.
It was ugly. There was a lot of turnovers. What are you thinking here, though? I mean, it's becoming pretty alarming that Stephen Curry can't make shots. Klay Thompson tonight was 3 of 10 from beyond the arc. He played 28 minutes at 17 points. 30% is no bueno. Kuminga was 0 for 3. Wiggins was 0 for 3. Draymond Green, who for most of the year was a success story in terms of three-point shooting. I think this is 5 games in a row now where he hasn't hit a single 3. He was 0 for 1. What, in your opinion, is going on with the team's perimeter shooting? It's gone. And if you don't make shots, you're not going to win in this league. Is it exhaustion? Or other teams defending the perimeter that well? At least give me your guesses, man. What do you think is going on with the team's shooting, which just was non-existent tonight?
Poor shot selection. They're rushing a lot of shots. Defense is also doing a good job. I actually get a chance to listen to the Warriors radio network during the game, and Tom Tolbert was mentioning more than once that the Warriors were taking a lot of hard, like difficult shots that would be hard to make with nobody defending you. Okay, so add defense on top of that, and it makes it almost impossible for them for these shots to go in the basket. And then on top of that, they're rushing a lot of shots. I mean, Chris Paul at one point toward the end of the game, he took a three that airballed, didn't even get close to the net. It's just, and he should never take threes. We talked about this before, and he doesn't care. I've asked him, and he's always said to me, I'll go 0 for 27 from 3, and guess what? I'm going to shoot it. You give me the ball, I'm going to shoot it. I'm like, okay, you admit you're 0 for 27, and you're going to take another 3? All right.
Shoot or shoot. That's what they do, right?
Well, yeah, but you're right. Shoot or shoot, but he's not a scorer. See, there's a difference. It's like John Starks. Remember John Starks? When he was hot, man, he could make his shots, but when he wasn't, he was like Chris Paul.
Absolutely, man. It was, and there was a lot of frustrating things going on tonight. Let's while we're on the topic of bad shooting, one thing I noticed in this game, which was very frustrating, and what I saw is a lack of ball movement. I saw Stephen Curry settling a lot, forcing quick shots, trying to play hero ball, which we're not accustomed to seeing from Steph. Klay Thompson was playing that type of role. You mentioned Chris Paul. I saw him forcing up some quick shots. And I don't know if timeouts are needed. I don't know if you need a speech from Steve Kerr to remind them, look, we win when we move the ball. We lose when we play this ISO crap and force up shots. There was a lot of that tonight. The Golden State Warriors don't usually lose the assist battle, but they lost that tonight. And by their standards, it was ridiculously low. They lost the assist battle to the Pacers 32-24. You're at Chase Center right now. What did you see in person that maybe someone on TV missed, if anything? And regardless, what are your thoughts on the team's lack of ball movement and playing a style of offense that we're not accustomed to seeing under a Steve Kerr team?
I saw a lot of individualism out there. In other words, I saw a lot of guys trying to play hero ball. And when I say hero ball, it's not just trying to pound the dribble. I saw guys trying to make ill-advised passes and just, I don't know, explain it, but yeah, I mean, a lot of guys, like I said, they get the ball and then they throw it to somebody without even knowing if the person's there or not. And I saw that happen a lot. I mean, and then Tim Roy's being generous. He said 3 times. No, it was more like at least half a dozen, if not more. I want to say it was maybe 10 times I saw bad passes tonight.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of bad passes. I mean, but you're right. When you're at home watching on TV, you're seeing what the camera wants you to see. A lot of ISO plays with Cram saying, yeah, I saw a lot of that too. Right. But when you're watching the whole court, from where I sit, you can see behind, as I go that way, you can see I'm sort of facing the baseline, right? So that's the angle I'm looking at. And so when you're watching, you can see the whole court, and you just see that the Warriors really don't have an idea of what they're doing out there. They really act like they're a team. They almost look like a grade school team out there. When you're a grade school kid and you're just trying to do your best, but you're just making every single mistake out there that's possible. That's what it looks like to me.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding.
That's how I play. That's why I'm a reporter. Okay, that's why I'm not playing basketball. I'm talking to you.
No, I totally follow. It was just disappointing to see the Warriors revert to that, because that's not the team I'm at least normally accustomed to watching revert to a style of basketball that is not typically successful and is not the Warriors brand of basketball. There's been a huge complaint from the Warriors themselves. We've heard Stephen Curry say this repeatedly, that they're trying to find an identity and they're struggling to find that. Ryan, speaking of struggling to find an identity, the Warriors this year, in a weird flip-flop from a year ago, last year they only won 11 road games. This year, the Golden State Warriors are significantly better on the road. They're 18-14 on the road, where they're about to go on what could be a brutal road trip. They're playing 7 of their next 8 on the road. They're going all over the country just to map it out in terms of how crazy this road trip is going to be and how much travel is going to involve. The Warriors are next going to travel to the tundra that is Minnesota. They're going to take on the Timberwolves. That game is Sunday. I'm not feeling super great about that one, first of all. But then they're swinging. They're traveling from there, going into to Florida for a 2-game swing. They're going to play the Heat and the Magic. Both those teams are damn good, so those could be losses. Then they're going to travel to Charlotte. That's going to be a must-win, considering that's one of the easiest teams they're going to play on this trip. Then they travel to Texas. They're going to play the San Antonio Spurs before finally coming back home in April. The Warriors are not going to be home again for the rest of March. And if you look at the standings right now, dude, it is crazy. The Houston Rockets are just 2 games back. Like, talk about a worst case scenario where you don't even make the play-in. Your thoughts on what I just told you there. You know what? Actually, Ryan, save those thoughts. We'll get your thoughts when we come back. That's called the tease, folks. But first and foremost, I have to hear your thoughts because that is insane. And real quick, I hate doing this, but Jay Boogie in the chat, an example of a Kerr apologist pretending like Kerr has nothing to do with this. Jay Boogie, little enlightenment for you. This roster is because of Steve Kerr. Nearly every player on this roster he approves. They're the smallest team in the NBA because of him. So if you want to apologize for Kerr, it's your right. It's your prerogative. But to pretend like he's not the problem, no, this roster is constructed for him. They didn't make trades at the deadline because of him. It is crazy when I read these Kerr apologists still existing in this world. But anyways, I want to hear your thoughts when we come back on this insane road trip coming up and the fact that the Warriors have just a 2-game lead on the Rockets. Because if the Warriors don't make the play-in, that's a catastrophe. You need to consider blowing this whole thing up in the offseason if that happens. So I'd love to get your reaction when you get back because that scenario is plausible and it's very realistic. And it's really depressing to even think about. But let's give some love to our sponsors first and foremost. And first up on the agenda is Ryan. I love car commercials. I don't know why. I guess I just love cars, period. I've driven cross country twice. It's a fun thing to do. It's therapeutic for me. You've talked about, right, you have like a really long running Japanese automobile and a Honda, correct? That's what you drive?
Yeah, 2015 Honda Civic.
That country makes phenomenal cars. I currently drive a Toyota. Once upon a time, I was a Nissan Pathfinder owner and driver. I loved my Pathfinder, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Nissan. They make phenomenal vehicles, and if you're the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further, if you ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. The majority of our audience is in the San Francisco Bay Area. What a description for the type of car you want and need in this region. Class exclusive Google built in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. And a car I used to own, I miss my baby. The 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has room for up to 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability. What a trustworthy vehicle to take up to Tahoe if it's snowing. If you want to go to the dunes of Central California and drive on the beach, that is your ride. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing, when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. And today's episode is also brought to you by the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network, and that is FanDuel. Let me get their banner here real fast. There we go. Are you a gambling man, Ryan? Like, do you bet on the horses? Do you bet on teams?
No, we talked about this before, remember? And I used to work for Sports Ticker. I used to be their Warriors writer. And no, man, I don't bet on sports. I don't have a what do you call it? I don't have a pool. I don't have a bracket going. Like I said, if I wanted to play an office bracket for the NCAA tournament, why don't you give me a $20 bill and I'll light it for you right now, right here on Locked On Warriors, okay?
Well, say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, I mentioned this promo at the beginning of the show, phenomenal. New customers get $200 in bonus bets, good as cash on the app or the website. If your first $5 bet wins, that's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked on and bet on college hoops until they cut down the Nets.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news. Streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And follow Ryan Leong. He is free and available on Twitter at Ryan Leong. His name, it's super easy. Make sure you follow him there. Ryan, the next 5 games for the Warriors, they're traveling all across the country. I mentioned the teams and the cities that they're going to. That is one wild road trip. One more time: Minnesota, Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, San Antonio. That is insane. The one piece of good news from that is the Warriors are 18-14 this year on the road. They seem to be more together on the road. For some reason, they bring more aggressiveness, more tenacity in these road games. I don't know why. It's a good sign that they're winning these road games because it tells you that chemistry is not an issue with this squad. Unlike last year when they only won 11 games and, you had the Jordan Poole thing, you had two-way players taking, lottery picks minutes. It was just a complete catastrophe a year ago. This year, they're actually playing well so far on the road. But this road trip could make or break their entire season because, as we mentioned just a moment ago, only 2 games separate the Warriors and the Rockets for the 10th and final seed for the play-in. Things are precarious. Your thoughts, Ryan, on these next 5 games?
Sorry, I was talking to me. What was your question there, Cyrus?
Just what we talked about a moment ago. Your thoughts on the next 5 games and the fact that the Rockets could surpass the Warriors.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. So the last time you had me on, right, they played against San Antonio. That closed out the homestand. They went 1-2. What did they do this time? They went 1-2. You're not going to get anywhere doing that. So let's just talk about, first of all, the end of this homestand. Going 1-2 on 3-game homestands is not good. You need to go 2-1 on your homestands at the very least, right? Because winning 33% of your games is a lot different than winning 66%. They've done okay on the road, right? Their road record's better than there was last year. But that is going to be a tough trip. I mean, you're basically like doing a Bugs Bunny trip. You're going all over the globe, right? Because you're starting in Minnesota, as you said. Then you're going to, the 2 Florida cities, and then Charlotte, and then San Antonio? I mean, that's kind of a zigzag, right, before you head back west. So, I want to make a comment, too. Somebody made in the comments that I only come on your podcast when the Warriors lose. I have nothing to do with that, man. The schedule is the schedule, okay? I mean, when
Did
fans
someone say that, and is that true?
Yeah. Well, because the last time you had me on, I did come on I think one of the road games, but the last home game I was here at was the San Antonio game when there was no Wemby and no Steph, and the Warriors got blown off the floor, right? So, hey, but I have nothing to do with that. I mean, the schedule's a schedule, and the Warriors themselves have nobody to blame but themselves for how they play. Now, Indiana is a very good team, but the Warriors definitely were charitable tonight. So I think that's a bigger concern right now is the fact that they can't take care of their own business. Yeah, the 5-game trip is going to be critical, but every game at this point for the Warriors is big, and they're not stepping up to the challenge. And as I mentioned to you, in between breaks and whatnot, the Warriors are not playing any better than 10th. Okay, and as you mentioned, pretty soon they're going to be looking at 11th because right now, Houston's crawling up on them right now, right? Houston is only they're only 1 game under 500. I mean, they're catching up now. I mean, they've not had a good year, but they're within striking distance now of getting within the Warriors. The Warriors, as you mentioned, a 2-game lead. I mean, obviously, the teams that are 10th and better are at least a 500 or better. And the Warriors are in danger of going, again, below 500. So, that road trip obviously coming up, I mean, sure, it'd be awesome if they could go 5-0, but that's not going to happen. So hopefully they go, 3-2, 4-1, but no worse than 3-2, in my opinion.
This is just crazy. Let me ask you this, man. And this is just a question because I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. The Houston Rockets, who are just 2 games behind the Warriors right now in the standings, and they're surging. They've won 9 of the last 10. Nobody expected them to be this good. The Rockets right now are 34-35. They rejuvenated Dylan Brooks' career. That dude was on the verge of going overseas. And he somehow landed the big money deal with the Rockets. People were perplexed by that, myself included. Now we understand why. It's because they have a head coach who maximizes talent. The Rockets are 34-35 this year under Ime Udoka. If Steve Kerr was their head coach this year, would they be this good?
You know, it's hard to say. I think that the thing with Steve Kerr is, I think Kerr is getting to a point now where coaching has aged him, but not as much as it has for Rick Carlisle. So my colleague Marco Kolovich, who's filling in for me in postgame while I'm on with you for Locked On Warriors, we went to Rick Carlisle's pregame, and of course, if you know what Rick Carlisle looks like, he looks like Jim Carrey, right? Except
a bald version, yes.
Yeah, so he looks like Fire Marshal Bill. Okay, he looks just like Fire Marshal Bill.
Let me tell you something. Yes.
Let me tell you something. Here's what happens when you coach too long. You look like me. You look all old and wrinkly. But he's still a very good coach, but he's aged. Steve Kerr, same thing. Coaching makes you age. It just makes you look old. I don't know, because it's a stressful job, and I get it. But people were asking me even here on Press Row, like why, certain substitutions were happening. I guess Draymond Green was in and out at certain points, and I really don't know how he's coaching this team. I really don't. It just seems like he doesn't seem to have the best grasp of what's going on, in my opinion. So and again, like you said, nobody had a good game tonight. It was obviously kind of really more miss than hit, and I'm really kind of. Yeah, I think you're right. You definitely say tonight was a game where nobody played well.
Nobody. Podziemski was the only one I think who played decent ball, and he's been playing so bad for so long, at least statistically. I know Kerr loves all the nitty-gritty intangibles that he brings to the table.
Yeah.
When we come back, there's a player, and I saw this in the chat a moment ago, and I'm going to highlight it because they speak truth, and I want to touch on this in a moment. But there's a player on the Warriors who has gone completely incognito. He's vanished. I don't know what happened to him, and we're going to talk about him. We're also going to hear from Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, who explained from his perspective why the Warriors collapsed in the second half. The Warriors were leading this game 64-60. Tyrese Halliburton hits that damn three-pointer, and another example of the Warriors' porous transition defense. I got a couple stats for you there. But I got a specific player, Ryan, I want to ask you about and talk about because they need him. They rely on him. And lately, he might be on the court, but he's a ghost. He is transparent. I don't know if he's even out there. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment after we give some love to our third and final sponsor for the evening. And that is quite possibly the most important sponsor of the night. And in terms of just the overall magnitude and impact it has on you as a human being. And that's BetterHelp, which is all about trying to heal the most important organ in your body, the brain. Tonight's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get on your way to being your best self. And look, first of all, there's nothing wrong with seeking therapy. There's nothing wrong with trying to get help for an organ that indicates we're all just human, whether you're suffering from anxiety, which is perfectly normal in this crazy world, whether it's depression, whether it's just a lapse of unhappiness, whatever it is, go see a therapist. It's okay. And one of the many positives of BetterHelp is the fact that you're saving time and money because unlike having to maybe drive to an office, you can use BetterHelp and their therapist from the comfort of your home. You can just be in your cozies. You don't have to spend money on gas. You don't have to waste all that time driving to and from the office and the traffic you might have to deal with. No, you can do it right at home. You can try out different therapists until you find the right fit. Certain insurance programs are accepted. Go try it out, especially if you feel like you need it. There's nothing wrong with it. It saved my life. It might save yours too, or at least just make you feel a little better. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, one final segment of Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Friendly reminder, at the absolute latest, we're back at this on Sunday when the Warriors play the Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, that vaunted huge front court. Your prediction, Ryan, on the Warriors and Timberwolves, Sunday, tip-off 4 p.m. Pacific.
I mean, right now, I can't say the Warriors are favored to win that game. I mean, Minnesota's a tough team, and they've already beaten the Warriors twice this season, although I believe both of those games were a chase. But, yeah. I mean, you just can't, like, say at this point right now the Warriors have any kind of advantage right now. They just need to win games, you know? I mean, that's
desperately, because I don't know. We might have to dedicate a whole show to like what happens if the Warriors don't make even the play-in. That would be catastrophic. Let's save that for a whole show because that's an easy 30 plus to an hour long discussion. But again, we'll be hosting right after that. Post game as always. That's been the pattern all season long. Let's hear from Steve Kerr real fast because the Warriors let this game slip in the second half. Again, they went into the half ahead by a point. That Tyrese Halliburton 3 at the buzzer near half court was just a momentum buster for the Warriors. And it also highlights how they're a problem that's been plaguing the Warriors all season, which is their transition defense. It's porous. It's borderline awful. I'm going to read a couple stats about that in just a minute. But first, here is Steve Kerr talking about what happened in that second half.
12-point lead there in the second quarter, and then everything just seemed to change there. What do you think happened to change this game?
Well, I thought Indiana was great, so give them credit. I thought their point guard play was fantastic between Halliburton, Nembhard, TJ McConnell. They just pushed the ball down our throats and got out in transition. And I thought they were the more physical team as well. When we had that lead, they made the push at the end of the second and then also at the beginning of the third. And it just didn't feel like we were getting to the loose balls. And they were out competing us there for a little bit. And then we lost our poise a little. We started turning it over. We were really good in the first half. I think only 3 or 4 turnovers and then probably 10 or so in the second. So I thought their physicality and their speed just kind of took us out of our rhythm a little bit.
Yeah, and as usual, non-specific answers, a lot of cliches. The Warriors poor. First of all, Ryan, any reaction to Steve Kerr's answer for why the team blew it in the second half?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised by his answer. And I give, hey, Tim Kawakami, he asks questions, he likes to ask lots of questions, I should add. But that's no better than I could have done if I asked that question for you. So I'm kind of glad we just started the show and I didn't go down and, waste more time trying to get his presser when, what answer you're going to get out of Steve Kerr. I see you laughing there, but no, I agree, dude. This year's been really, really, I'd say maybe the last 2 years have been kind of perplexing in the way, because Kerr obviously really had the Midas touch when he started coaching his team, right? I mean, when he first became the Warriors coach, what he win like 17 of his first 20 games or some crazy stat like that, and the Warriors played so well. And even when he couldn't coach because he had back issues, then Luke Walton took over, and then they couldn't lose. So I don't know what's going on. I mean, I just think this team just doesn't have confidence. They play really sort of schizophrenic basketball. Does that make sense? And
sometimes they do. Yeah, it does. Yeah. At times I see it. Yeah, absolutely.
And then Curry, a lot of times now, he's rushing his threes, and I know he's got to shoot threes, but he's just he'll get the ball, and a lot of times now that shot's not falling like it used to. I think he needs to give himself a little bit more time. Maybe partly because he is getting a little older. Maybe he needs to set himself a little more because. Again, he obviously is the greatest shooter in NBA history, but I think he's getting to a point now where he does need a little bit more time to target his shots.
Yeah, I saw the Pacers, their defensive strategy in this game. It was one of the first times I've seen it all year. Their focus was Kuminga, and it was effective. They shut him down. Again, Kuminga had his worst game, in my opinion, as a starter. Was just 4 of 17 from the field, 11 points, did have 8 boards. But here's the player though that's been sticking out to me, which a lot of people aren't talking about. And TJ Irving 54 wrote, Gary Payne, maybe this is hyperbolic and extreme, but he writes that Gary Payne II is useless and Chris Paul is good, but we can't win with him. Two things come out of there, and I'm glad he mentioned those two names. First of all, I am beyond tired of seeing Chris Paul and Stephen Curry out there together. That is a losing formula. You're too small. You're too old. You're never going to go anywhere with that backcourt. That to me is symbolic of Steve Kerr's failing as a head coach, not realizing playing those two together doesn't work. It doesn't, you don't win with it. It hasn't worked all season, yet we constantly still see it. If the Warriors don't make the play-in, it starts with dumbass decisions like that. But more importantly, I think besides just enough of Curry and Chris Paul playing together, Gary Payton II, he's as close to a lockdown defender as we've ever seen in this game. One of the most elite defensive players ever. And offensively, this is someone who is almost always at the right place at the right time. He would make huge clutch threes and, have the monster slams. If he's being slowed down because of injury, stop playing him. Okay? Like there's no good reason to force him out there. But if it's not injury, I don't know what the hell is going on, but he is not the same player. He's borderline irrelevant when he's out there now, and it's troubling. Your thoughts, Ryan?
No, I agree. He's not been the same player, and I think maybe it's the injury they got because ever since he came back, because they had him that year they won the title, but he had that injury, when they traded for him, and he's not been the same player. And he had a pretty bad line tonight. He had a really bad line, right? A little over 7.5 minutes, only one shot taken. He missed that. Made one of two free throw attempts, one offensive board, one turnover. He does a -10. Those are really ineffective numbers. And even your guy that I know you like, Moses Moody, he had a terrible night tonight, right? 2 of 5 from the field, 0 of 3 from distance.
Well, the thing with Moody that's particularly alarming. Well, first of all, with Moses Moody, to me, I think it's a disservice to expect great things from him when one game he's not playing at all. Then the next minute you throw him out there in the second quarter and you just expect him to be the same guy. He looked great in that 4-game road trip when they went 3-1 and he was starting because Wiggins went MIA. I thought he looked superb, and then Wiggins comes back, he gets relegated to the bench, and then he's never been the same. But Moody's shot is concerning. His 3-point shot is plummeting right now, and he's lost it entirely. He put up how many 3-point attempts did he have tonight? I have it right here. It's he was 0 for 3. He had 3 attempts, and I feel like they were all in that same sequence. When he just kept trying to force the ball in. That's another discussion for another day as well. But Moody's shot is cooked right now. But look, the bottom line is this: if you're playing a game like tonight and things aren't working, I felt like this was a game where Lester Quinones could have had a good run, right? He could have brought some energy. He's a slightly bigger athletic player than a Chris Paul. He's a good outside shooter, a player like Guy Santos. I wouldn't mind seeing someone like him. The Pacers are so fast, so athletic that you got to match that. And you're not going to match that with these slow old players that the Warriors have. So it's frustrating. And the last thing, the transition defense, I got to highlight these stats real fast. Cause again, that Tyrese Halliburton 3 at the end of the first half to me was a backbreaker. And we saw him hit another one again at the end of the third quarter. But the one at the end of the first half was because of the Warriors failing again with transition defense. For some reason, they don't hustle back regularly. They don't find their man right away. So as a result, the other players are getting open shots. The Warriors are 27th out of 30 teams in the NBA in transition points given up per game this year. 23.7 points per game the opposition is scoring strictly from transition points. They're 19th out of 30 teams in transition, an opponent transition field goal percentage. The point is their transition D sucks. We got 30 seconds, Ryan. Final thoughts and promote away.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I got a podcast with my friend, colleague, Marco Kolovich. BayAreaSportsRap.com is our website. We also have a YouTube channel. It is at BA Sports Rap on YouTube. And, we do podcasts. We had you on, for instance, Cyrus. And, hey, by the way, shout out to both you and Marco. You guys are both Aztecs. Congratulations to San Diego State for advancing to the next round. You're going to play against Yale, I understand, right? So Yale, Colin Ward Henninger is one of the writers that covers for CBS Sports. He's a Yale grad, so he and Marco and you can duke it out in the next game,
I love it, man. Aztecs for life, baby. Thank you for the shout out from my alma mater. Thank you to everyone for joining us on nights like this. It's not fun for anyone, but hey, misery loves company. So at least we can be miserable together. Ryan Leong, thank you as always, brother. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Leong. Follow me on Threads at Dog Wild. Have a great weekend, everyone. Be fun, have fun, be safe. And we'll be back at this Sunday night at the latest. Warriors, Timberwolves. This one sucked. Bye-bye.